Sharife Cooper was a 5-star recruit and one of the best high school point guards we have ever seen, but he hasn't always been at the top, and today I'm just here to explain to y'all his story. Oftentimes, 4 and 5-star recruits have always been at the top their entire life. But our story today is completely different, so without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. And you guys already know, to get into his story, we gotta throw it all the way back to where things started. Sharife Cooper was born on June 11th in 2001. And although he grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, he was actually born in New Jersey. His family wound up making the big move to Atlanta when he was only 6. And he's not the only one with talent in his family. Both of his sisters won state titles at their high school. And oh yeah, he has a twin brother that nobody talks about, and I'll make a video on him very soon if y'all want to see that. When Cooper was growing up, he wasn't really underrated, but he didn't stand out either. As he was growing up though, there was one thing that really stood out about him, and it was his leadership ability. He's been a point guard his entire life, and he always got his teammates involved first. But once he got up to middle school, this was when he really started to make a lot of noise. He started being known as a true scorer and was even good on the defensive side of the ball. But the best and most important part about his game was that he's always been a winner his entire life. When he was in middle school, he led his team to back-to-back championships and won the most competitive leagues in the Southeast. And matter of fact, his team and him were so good they started playing against older teams. And this really prepared him for the long run in high school basketball. With how good and how young he was playing the point guard position and playing against older competition, a lot of people compared him to Kyrie Irving. And I think that was a fair comparison early on because just like Kyrie, he has a great feel for the game. But here's the thing a lot of people don't know about Sharife Cooper. He loves to play defense. Of course, we as fans only pay attention to the flashy plays and how many points you average. But what really separated Sharife from his peers was that he really concentrated on the defensive side of the ball. He was always accepting the challenge of guarding the best player on the other team. And it just goes back to him being a winner. He wants to do whatever it takes to win. And even though he was always guarding the best player in middle school, he was still getting buckets on the other end. On the offensive side of the ball, let's just say he was a special talent. I would really describe this kid as a very smart player. He knows how to run the offense, get players involved, and he also knows how to get himself involved as well. So it's not like if you were playing with Sharife Cooper, you were just sitting in the corner. He was passing you the ball too. But if the team was stalling on offense and they needed a bucket, he would get that bucket they need. A lot of times he tries to get his teammates involved first and then he'll take over a game. And he does way more than getting the job done. He's very efficient. But even though Sharife was seeing a lot of success at the middle school level, he just wasn't receiving any hype. But heading into his freshman year, this is when things started to change. As just a freshman, starting for his varsity team, he averaged 16 points per game and 4.4 assists. And he also led his team to a 29-1 record that year. So that was a pretty solid year, but he still wasn't receiving any love from recruiters or anyone whatsoever. But for his sophomore year in high school, he turned a lot of heads. He once again had another solid year and led his team to a 26-3 overall record. And oh yeah, he even dropped 42 points in one game. Not only that, in one game he also scored the game-winning shot in an 83-81 victory. Now with that being said, you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, this is when he started to get a lot of recognition. Well, you would also be wrong. With this guy having a great freshman and sophomore year for being that young and starting for a varsity team in a very hard league, you would think he'd be getting more love. But I don't know if it was because he was short or what it was, he just wasn't. But however, this is where our story takes a drastic turn. I don't know if someone lit a fire under him or what happened, but he completely turned it on in his junior season. During his junior year, which was the season 2018 through 2019, he led his team to a perfect 32-0 record. And he led his team to its first state title in school history. And if that wasn't impressive enough for you, listen to these numbers. Sharife averaged 27.2 points per game, 8.1 assists and 5.6 rebounds and 4.3 steals. Those stats are remarkable. And within literally 6 to 8 months, Sharife Cooper went from being unknown to a 5-star recruit. If I had to compare his story to anyone else's, it is very similar to Collin Sexton's. The only difference is Collin Sexton came out of nowhere, whereas Sharife Cooper, a lot of people did actually know him. But when Sharife Cooper was asked is his story similar to Collin Sexton's, he said yes. And here's what he had to say about his come up. I've never felt like people really gave me much respect. I'm not ranked in some rankings and some have me lower, but that's okay, I'd rather be slept on. And he actually said that quote before he was even ranked. And he was right, some rankings did have him ranked, but a lot of the others didn't. And he also made his name really known the year before he started getting attention on the EYBL circuit. This is where he averaged roughly 21 points per game and 4.5 rebounds. And those stats are really good, and it's actually better than what you think because he's playing against the best competition. And after he had that great AAU run, this is when he started to get more attention, and here's what he had to say about that. It feels good good to finally be getting some of the respect I've been working so hard for. There were times when I thought I was going to get more national respect, then it never happened. And there was an interview where a guy asked Sharife Cooper how hard it was coming up and if he wanted to quit, and here's what he said. It was frustrating because nothing changed nationally. I had to focus on the things I could control. And this is what Sharife Cooper actually stated about not being ranked. That was definitely a big motivation for me this spring. Obviously, he's talking about the spring before we started getting all that attention. And I'm just going to read a couple more quotes for you guys about what Sharife Cooper said. Just going back to the defensive side of the ball, this is what Sharife Cooper said his main goal is, quote unquote, to lock them up on the defensive end. Also later adding, some guys don't check up on the other top guard, but that's not me. I don't want him to have any points. That's how I think. I'm not worried about the offensive end because I know what I'm going to do there. I always challenge myself on the defensive end. That's another thing that's made me who I am. And before we go any farther, we got to give Sharife Cooper mad props. 99% of you watching this video do not want to guard the best player on the other team because it's a big task and it tires you out. When you're guarding the best player, it makes you tired, so you don't have enough energy on the offensive end. But Sharife Cooper doesn't care. He likes the challenge and he actually welcomes it in. And I just want to say I really respect that out of him because not too many other players do that, especially in high school. And last but not least, this is what Sharife Cooper stated about his grind. My dad raised me different. He taught me to never take anything for granted. Getting to where I'm at only makes me hungrier than when I wasn't ranked. I'm serious. When I look back, not getting the attention early was the best thing that could have happened to me because it taught me what's important. The only thing I focus on is working. That's the only way to win. Let me just tell you guys, those are very mature words from a young guy. And he was actually stating those words in his junior year. He still had one more year of high school basketball left. I almost forgot to mention that he was also the National Player of the Year for Georgia just as a junior. Not a senior, as a junior. That's crazy good. And here's what an opposing coach had to say about him. Sharife is a great high school player. He is the key to success. He can get anywhere on the court that he wants to and can space you out with his three-point shooting. More importantly, he makes all the players around him better. And just like we stated earlier in the video, that just goes to him being a great point guard and a great leader. A little fun fact to throw in there for you guys, Sharife Cooper isn't a slouch in the books either. In high school, he had a 3.0 GPA, so that's not too bad. The crazy part about this was that all of this happened before his senior season. But here's the thing, he went from unranked to being a 5-star recruit within literally 6 to 8 months, so a lot happened. Going into his senior year though, a lot of things were different. Whereas he was somewhat underrated his entire high school career, now all the eyes were on him. So for the first time in Sharife Cooper's life, he actually felt the pressure to succeed. And well, he answered the call and did not disappoint. As a senior, he averaged 30.6 points per game. He also pitched in 7.8 assists, which is really good, and 3.6 steals per game. I know the 30 points and 7 assists are really good, but I think the best part about this stat line are the steals. He averaged 3.6 a game. That's really insane. It wasn't by accident though, because he's been preaching how much he loves to play on the defensive side of the ball. So this really shouldn't be a shock to anyone. And when it was all said and done, he was his high school's all-time leading scorer and he passed over 2,000 career points. And by his senior year, every college in the country wanted this guy. In a somewhat fairly simple recruiting process, he wound up deciding to commit and sign with Auburn. And the way Auburn plays with that extremely fast pace and how offensive minded they are, I think this is a really great fit. And I really mean that, and I think he has the potential to start right away. And when it was all said and done, he was regarded as a 5-star recruit, had a 94 overall grade on ESPN, and he was ranked the 20th best overall player. And ESPN officially had him listed at 6 foot and 160 pounds. Normally I take their word for it, but I don't think that's right. I think he's roughly 6'1 or 6'2 and weighs probably 170 or 180. But hey, it's not that big of a difference and it don't matter that much. A lot of times we tend to hate on greatness, but we just need to admire it in this situation. This guy went from being unranked almost his entire life to a 5-star recruit so quickly. And hey man, Sharife Cooper's story is definitely one of the most inspiring stories I've ever covered, and I feel like you guys can relate to it as well. So I thought this would be a great video idea, and if you want to see me cover Sharife Cooper's twin brother, leave a like down below. I said a like, I meant a comment. You guys get what I'm trying to say. And just a little inspirational Matt in the building right here. If you're unranked, don't get too sad about it. Just keep working like Sharife did, and hey, maybe even you can be a 4 or 5-star recruit. Sharife Cooper went from being unranked and not even talked about to a 5-star recruit. So can he keep up this great success, or will he fold under the pressure at Auburn? But hey man, with all this being said, that's about gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. If you're new to the channel, what are you doing? Join the family, man, and hit that subscribe button and leave a like for more. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.